Welcome into the PFF College Football Show. Max Chadwick alongside Dalton Wasserman here with Dalton's favorite subject, breaking down recruiting, breaking down National Signing Day that just happened where every five-star recruit is heading, breaking down the top 25 overall classes. And Dalton, one of the top recruits, Chris Henry Jr., the number one wide receiver in high school football, will be announcing his commitment live at 12:10 p.m. Eastern Time. So hopefully we'll still be live on this show to react to his commitment. Right now he's still committed to Ohio State, but he does not sign his papers just yet. There are plenty of schools like Oregon, USC, Texas, and LSU still vying for his services. He was planning on signing with Ohio State, but with the news of Brian Hartline taking the USF head coaching job, he is not as sure of his commitment right now. So we'll get his live commitment at 12:10 p.m. Eastern Time, but can't wait to kind of break down this 2026 recruiting class with you.
No, certainly a lot of talent. You see that these teams are attacking premier positions, and obviously, for as much as you and I debate it, the recruiting classes every single year and teams that can keep up the elite recruiting cycle every single year, those are the teams that stay on top of college football, right? You can't win without talent, and there's teams bringing in a boatload of talent this year, including some of the top that might be a little bit surprising.
Yeah, not Penn State right now, though.
No, that's secondary right now. Yeah.
Penn State has.
They're trying to do a different type of recruiting.
Penn State has
it's not going great.
Two players right now signed in the class of 2026. While other schools have like 40, they have two. Penn State right now is 142nd, I believe, in recruiting right now, which is there's 136 FBS teams for those counting at home. Not great for my Nittany Lions right now, but let's break down some of the five-star recruits that are going on right now. Before I get into that, though, I want to remind you guys right now, PFF Plus is 30% off right now with the promo code HOLIDAY30. So if you want to see how these five-star recruits do in their true freshman years of college football, you can get it with the PFF Plus subscription. It gets you the grades, data, analytics for every player in college football and every player in the NFL as well. And you get access to our mock draft simulator where you can eventually draft some of these former five-star recruits as they make their way into the NFL. Of course, fantasy football tools, betting tools, all of it available with a PFF Plus subscription. 30% off right now when you use the promo code HOLIDAY30. All right, let's dive into all of the five-star recruits in the class of 2026 via the Rivals Industry Ranking and kind of give you guys who they are and where they're going to school right now. So the number one overall recruit and the only other five-star that is not signed right now, other than Chris Henry Jr., is Lamar Brown. He is an athlete going to LSU. That's why the asterisk is right next to him. It sounds like he's going to sign with LSU, though. And for anyone wondering, he's listed as an athlete. It's not a wide receiver corner type situation. It's an offensive lineman, defensive lineman situation because this guy is legitimately a five-star prospect on either side of the ball. Number two, definitely an offensive tackle, is Jackson Cantwell going to Miami. Number three, Jared Curtis, the top quarterback, flipping from Georgia to Vanderbilt very recently. Number four, another quarterback staying in his hometown, Keyshawn Henderson going to Houston. Number five, Zion Ely going to Maryland. Number six, we got another edge rusher here in Carter Meadows, who's going to Michigan. Chris Henry Jr., the wide receiver, the top receiver in the class, going to Ohio State. As of right now, once again at 12:10 p.m., he will announce where he's going to college and sign with that college. Number eight, another quarterback here in Dia Bell going to Texas. Number nine, another quarterback, Faison Brandon going to Tennessee, the last five-star quarterback that we have. Savion Hyder, the top running back in the class, going to Michigan. Number 11, Tristan Keys, the wide receiver, going to Tennessee. Number 12, edge rusher LaDamian Guyton going to Texas Tech. Number 13, another edge rusher, Richard Wesley going to Texas. 14, Felix Ojo, an offensive tackle going to Texas Tech. 15, another offensive tackle here, and Emmanuel Iheanacho going to Oregon. Number 16, the top tight end in the class, Kendra Harrison going to Oregon as well. 17, Rodney Dunham going to Notre Dame, the edge rusher. 18, Xavier Crowell, running back going to Alabama. 19, the top linebacker in the class, Tyler Atkinson going to Texas. Number 20, another linebacker, in Xavier Griffin going to Alabama. 21, also going to Alabama, is Jira Edwards, a safety. 22, another safety here, and Jet Washington going to Oregon. Number 23 is Mark Bowman, another tight end going to USC. 24, defensive lineman Richard Anderson going to the LSU. 25, Cody Green, the offensive tackle going to Washington. 26, Kari Adams, a corner, the top corner actually, going to Notre Dame all the way down there at 26. Number 27, Jalen Lott, a wide receiver going to Oregon. 28, Ian Premer, a tight end going to Notre Dame. 29, cornerback Brandon Arrington going to Texas A&M. 30, Caden Prothro going to Georgia, tight end. 31, safety Joey O'Brien going to Notre Dame. And finally, rounding it out at 32, Anthony Jones, an edge rusher going to Oregon. Kind of think of five-star recruits as college football's version of first-round picks, which is why, Dalton, there are always 32 five-stars every year.
Reasonable, yeah. I mean, you look at a lot of talent there at a lot of different positions, and I think the number one guy might be the most interesting of all of them, Lamar Brown. Look, there's been reports that he could be a five-star offensive tackle or defensive end, and he looks elite at both of them, right? In LSU, if that's where he's going, there, Lane Kiffin's going to have to make a decision. Do I want this guy to be my next left tackle or even right tackle? He's played a lot of right tackle in high school. Am I going to want to rebuild the offensive line around this guy, or do I have a superstar pass rusher at 6'4", 285 pounds on my hands here? From the little bit that I've seen, I would probably leave him on offense. I think he could be an outstanding offensive tackle, finally get a successor there to Will Campbell at LSU, but I get it one way or the other. He's going to be an impact dominant player on one side of the ball or the other, and it's just so rare that we see the athlete designation for a lineman, right?
Yeah.
And he's that good on both sides of the ball. Usually in high school, those guys are playing both sides because they're just so overwhelming athletically, and the size is overwhelming. But this guy is legitimate on both sides, and I'll be very curious to see where Kiffin wants to play.
Yeah, let's talk about him playing potentially interior offensive line or defensive tackle or maybe offensive tackle as well. He actually said that he envisions himself as an offensive lineman at the next level because he said he likes to destroy people and get to the next level and destroy somebody else too. So Lamar Brown is a very physical football player, and for anyone wondering why Lane Kiffin would take a job like LSU and leave Ole Miss, the first person, Dalton, that was in his office when he got to LSU was Lamar Brown. When you have the number one overall recruit in the country waiting on you to get to, when you get to your new job, that shows how good of a job it is. So yeah, Lamar Brown is a fantastic football player. Very excited to see if he does end up at LSU. Again, he and Chris Henry Jr. right now are the only two five-stars that have not signed yet, but while Henry is still mulling over some various schools, Lamar Brown sounds like he's going to go to LSU, just kind of finishing out some details probably of his contract over at LSU too. I want to talk about Jared Curtis, the quarterback going to Vanderbilt, who is a very, very talented football player, obviously going to Vanderbilt, most likely going to start as a true freshman next year, a lot like the past number one quarterback last year, Bryce Underwood, going to Michigan. Underwood was going to go to LSU, where he's going to sit behind Garrett Nussmeier for a year. Instead, he goes to Michigan and starts as a true freshman. Curtis, a lot like that, was going to go to Georgia, sit behind Gunnar Stockton for a year. Instead, he's going to Vanderbilt, where because Diego Pavia is out of eligibility, Jared Curtis is most likely going to be the starting quarterback for the Commodores. And Dalton, this guy has elite arm talent with very good playmaking ability as well. He's so good outside of structure. He could throw from any arm angle. His jump passes in there. There's been comps to Matthew Stafford in the past, and I was blown away by Jared Curtis's film, and I cannot wait to most likely watch him as the starting quarterback next year at Vanderbilt.
There are some guys who have those tight classic mechanics, right? When you think about the guys like Tom Brady and Joe Burrow, even like a current guy like a Fernando Mendoza he's got very consistent mechanics, and you know what to look for. Jared Curtis is in that category where he's got that loose, whippy arm action. When you think about Patrick Mahomes, Caleb Williams, Matthew Stafford, that the arm angle does not matter. The ball just flies out of his hand, whether he's on platform or off of it. I think he's really good in rhythm in the pocket, and when he does have to improvise, man, you see some of those things. Cam Ward showed that to us too last year at Miami. He can throw it back across the field. It feels like no throw is off limits for Jared Curtis, and you compare him now to Diego Pavia. He's a little bit bigger, 6'3", 225 going in there. He is mobile. We'll see if he's the type of dynamic runner that Pavia was, but even if he's not, he's got more arm talent than Pavia, and Pavia has been obviously outstanding for the last 2 years, but Jared Curtis has special arm talent that you cannot teach, and Vanderbilt really could turn their program into a long-term powerhouse starting with this kid.
Yeah, he's got an NFL body already, like 6'3", 6'4", 225. Like you mentioned, the next quarterback on our list, Keyshawn Henderson, he's 6'3", 185. So he's got to hit the weight room a little bit, Keyshawn Henderson, but he's another guy, Dalton, that actually Keyshawn Henderson, beginning of his high school career, many people listed him as an athlete thinking he would play wide receiver. He has been like one of the most improved quarterbacks in high school football in his senior year. Now there's no doubt now that this guy will be a quarterback at the next level, and Houston bring him in as a number 4 overall player and the number 2 quarterback. I am really excited to see. He's most likely going to sit behind Connor Wigman if Wigman sticks around for another year, but Keyshawn Henderson will be a starter very, very soon for the Cougars.
Tremendous athlete with a big arm, right? You mentioned it, kind of a thin build at 6'3", 185, but man, he's got feet that can take over a ball game. He's got a huge arm. He reminds me actually a little bit, I would say, he's probably a little thinner, but gave me that Nico Iamaleava vibe where you just build your offense around this guy. He's the best athlete on the field. He can make vertical throws. He can improvise, and even, you see at times when his high school, they'll run trick plays with him and get him out there running routes as a receiver too, and he can make plays happen with the ball in his hands. I think this is the type of guy, if you're Houston, you're willing to build around, right? Refine his footwork a little bit more, like you mentioned, get him in the weight room, but this is the type of athlete at the quarterback position that, especially in the Big 12, can take games over single-handedly. That's what Houston's looking for. I think eventually he's going to add a dynamic element to their passing game. That is the one thing to me that's missing from their program right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's a really dynamic athlete. He's risen up so much in the rankings before. Again, the guy that was listed as an athlete in high school for a little bit, and now he's a full-time quarterback because of how good he's been and how much he improved as a passer during his time in high school. And he's staying in his hometown like Jared Curtis. He's going to Houston. Anyone else that you wanted to shout out that you watched tape of that you really were impressed by in this 5-star list?
I'll tell you what, I think Michigan's getting 2 really good ones in the top 10. Number 6, the edge rusher, Carter Meadows, and number 10, the top running back in the country, Savion Hyder. I just like with Meadows the combination of his size and ability, and then he just plays with this measured cerebral approach. He doesn't rush anything. He doesn't get too reckless out there on the field. I think the combination of physicality, burst, and football IQ on the field to just know where the football is at all times, I think he's going to be an excellent player, maybe an early contributor to Michigan's defense. And then Savion Hyder, man, I'm going to tell you what, don't give this guy a crease because he's got blazing speed. He's got hard one-step quickness that can shake defenders at the second level. He's powerful enough to run through tackles. This kid is going to make an early contribution as well. And look, Michigan, they might lose Justice Haynes in the draft, but if they've got Jordan Marshall coming back and then Hyder, the number 1 back in the class, coming right behind him, I really think that's going to be a fun backfield once again in Michigan, as we always have. They want to run the football first and foremost, but Bryce Underwood, this run game's only getting better for you. Now they just got to work on the outside, getting more receivers. You've got Andrew Marsh out there, but I think these 2 guys for the Wolverines are going to be impact players pretty soon.
You're probably going to lose Justice Haynes to the NFL draft, but you still have Jordan Marshall coming back for another year and then Savion Hyder as well. I think they're very set in the backfield right now. Like Dalton said, just get a little bit better at wide receiver, and Michigan should be very scary too, because they brought in one 5-star tackle last year and another high 4-star tackle, so their offensive line is doing really well for the future as well. And Carter Meadows, man, he's around 6'6", he's around 6'7" right now too, 235 pounds, but he could be a lot bigger than that. How about this, Dalton? He has 35-inch arms. Crazy. Man. This guy is built in a lab. I'm excited to watch him.
He is, and it's just, and to me, it's that you can feel that part, especially on a high school field. But again, it's this measured, smart approach that he plays the game with, that he doesn't just rely on his gifts either to succeed on a field. I think he's going to be outstanding for them.
I want to talk about the tight ends in this year's recruiting class, because it is an incredible year for tight ends. Shout out to Max Toscano. Dalton, there are 4 5-star tight ends in the class of 2026. I actually looked it up. The most 5-star tight ends that we had in a single class before this was 2. So this is double the previous record for 5-star tight ends. We have Kendra Harrison, a tight end who's probably going to play basketball as well. He's actually like the number 120 basketball player in the country as well. He's going to play both basketball and football at Oregon. Number 2, you got Mark Bowman going to USC. Number 3, Ian Premer going to Notre Dame. And number 4, Caden Prothro going to Georgia. Again, 4 5-star tight ends, doubling the previous record of 2 5-star tight ends. It's going to be a really fun class to watch how those 4 pan out in their career.
For sure. Harrison, the top guy going to Oregon, jumps out at you the most. This guy's a dinosaur, man. He's listed at 6'6" and 250. And you look at him, and to my mind immediately went to all of the things that Trey'Dez Green is doing down there at LSU. As a 6'7" athlete down there, you can put him out there on the field, and he can win after the catch. He can win any jump ball situation, anywhere you want, from any alignment. He's going to be outstanding. Bowman is a really good athlete. Think about him a little bit. I kind of, did you get a Max Clare vibe from him a little bit? He's got just really good athleticism out in open space. I mean, Premer just looks like a Notre Dame tight end. Yeah. It feels like all these Notre Dame tight ends, they come through and they all have the same level of talent. They're big, they're tall, they can do everything well, they can block well. And then Prothro's an interesting one because a lot of his tape is lined up out wide at receiver, like as his high school's ex-receiver, but dynamic route runner. Maybe he's in the Kyle Pitts or even a Rondé Gadsden kind of mold, but all of them just freak athletes. And I think it just shows you where the game is going all the way up to the NFL level, where tight ends are becoming more and more of a premium position. You look at the way these offenses are built with 12 personnel, with big tight ends who can line up anywhere, with big tight ends who can block and help in the run game and give you that two-way go in more neutral situations. I just think this is where the game is going, and you're going to see more of these 5-star guys playing tight end because it's just such an important position. Even a guy like Lincoln Riley, right? When you talk about getting Bowman, he's buying into it. This year, he's got 2 good tight ends on his team that have made his offense a lot better. So I think the game is changing a little bit, and it's going to lean more towards this as we get into future years here.
Yeah, Prothro is a lot like, I remember Deuce Robinson was listed as a tight end coming out of high school, and he went to USC, then he ended up going to Florida State now as well. He's had a great year at Florida State this year. He's playing wide receiver at Florida State. I can see Prothro having a similar career arc, because Prothro, like you mentioned before, he's 6'6", but he's only 215 pounds right now. Now, of course, he will put on a lot of weight as he gets into a college weight and strength and conditioning program, but still, I can see that guy playing a lot of receiver, I think, at Georgia too. Kendra Harrison, that guy's a tight end. He is 6'6". He's already 250 pounds right now. That is an NFL body at tight end as a high school senior. I actually posted a clip, Dalton, of him as a sophomore in high school. As I mentioned before, he is like a high 3-star basketball recruit. And again, will play on the Oregon basketball team too. As a sophomore in high school, he had a backboard shattering dunk. It just shows the kind of athlete Kendra Harrison is. So I'm really excited to watch him in that Oregon offense. Again, they're going to lose a really 5-star prospect of tight end, and Kenyon Sadiq, who will be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. And then Kendra Harrison coming in, though, I could see him making an immediate impact on that Oregon team next year.
And that's another example. For years and years, we've thought of Oregon as this spread-out offense, and it's all smaller receivers and slot guys more like Tej Johnson, right? But you've seen in recent years that Dan Lanning and Will Stein's not going to be there anymore as the head coach of Kentucky, but tight end has been considered now a premium position at Oregon. You look at Terrence Ferguson, the second-round pick of the Rams last year. Patrick Herbert's in the NFL. You've got Sadiq this year. Right now you're getting Kendra Harrison going here. I mean, it's really going to be a fun thing to watch with Oregon, and they just love that balance on offense, right? And whether it's Dante Moore coming back or whoever the next quarterback is, they're going to love throwing to this guy because they've got all the catch radius in the world to work with.
To answer Andrew Harbaugh's question in the chat, I don't remember what years had 2. There were multiple years that did have 2 5-star tight ends. I have to look it up later on, but there are a couple of years, I believe, that had 2 5-star tight ends. Again, this is the one where there's 4 5-star tight ends, again, doubling the previous record. Before we move on, Dalton, to the top 25 classes, any thoughts on the other 2 5-star quarterbacks that we have in Dia Bell and Faison Brandon? Dia Bell going to Texas, actually the son of NBA player Raja Bell, and Faison Brandon going to Tennessee.
So Bell, to me, kind of just a clean delivery pocket passer, a point guard, a ball distributor, right? And of course, his dad being a basketball player, of course, he's a point guard on the football field. I think Bell is a natural successor to what they have here in Arch Manning. Solid athlete. I wouldn't say he's the athlete like, Keyshawn Henderson is over there at Houston, but clean delivery, whether he's inside or outside of the pocket, very accurate, sees the field quickly. I think Steve Sarkisian's really going to like the way that Bell eventually operates his offense. And then honestly, Faison Brandon, he's just exactly what Josh Heupel looks for in his quarterbacks. He's big. He's got a big-time deep ball. He's a really good athlete. More like Henderson, a guy who can just take over the game with his athleticism. But if Josh Heupel is continuing to look for a vertical passer, which is what he wants in his offense, Faison Brandon is definitely that guy. Watching him, I go, yep, that's Josh. That's a Josh Heupel guy right there. That's exactly what his guys look like.
Exactly. How I would describe this quarterback class right now, I think Jared Curtis has easily the best arm talent of any quarterback in the country. Keyshawn Henderson is the best dual threat quarterback that we have in high school football going into next year in college. Dia Bell, I would say, is probably the cleanest mechanics overall. I think he's just footwork, everything is just so clean. He won, I believe, Elite 11 MVP going into his senior year of high school, which, of course, is the competition for all the top quarterbacks in high school football every year. And then Faison Brandon, like you mentioned before, is a good deep ball, good arm talent as well. He's an accurate passer with good physical traits. He's kind of just a combination of a lot of the guys right there. But yeah, that's how I would describe it. Is Curtis, elite arm talent. Keyshawn Henderson's a guy that's a great runner as well as being a really improved passer. Dia Bell is just the cleanest mechanics overall. And then Faison Brandon is a guy that kind of has a lot of those tools put together too.
Yeah, that's, I would say, the best way to describe it. And I think you often see with these players, and I think there's even certain players at other positions. I look at Jackson Cantwell, the number 2 offensive tackle. When I watched him, I went, yeah, that's why Mario Cristobal wants this guy. Just big mauling run blocker. You see, you kind of get the patterns of guys that coaches have on their teams now and the types of players they look for, and it's the same types of players they look for even at the top of these rankings. So I think all those quarterback fits make a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of these player fits that make a lot of sense. And like you mentioned, a guy like Bell, I think, Steve Sarkisian wants a solid distributor to get the ball out to all of his athletes. A guy like Brandon, he's the guy with the big arm that can make those vertical throws that Heupel wants. Guys, these coaches, these head coaches, they're looking for fit as much as they are talent, and I think all those guys fit the right programs.
Yeah, Jackson Cantwell, by the way, and credit to Rivals for having this write-up on him, his nickname of Mr. Olympics because his dad and his mom were both Olympians. So this guy was born to be an elite athlete, man, literally. I mean, his dad won a silver medal in the shot put at the 2008 Beijing Games, and his mom as well was a shot put champion and also participated in the 2000 Sydney Games. So when your dad and your mom are like incredible Olympian shot putters, Jackson Cantwell is probably born to be, if not an elite track athlete, an elite offensive lineman. That's exactly what he is right now.
Watching him, he was another one. I go, why? I get it. I know exactly why Mario Cristobal wants this guy. He's a natural successor to Francis Mauigoa there, just an absolute mauler. Miami is built on physical play in the trenches. This guy's going to continue to bring it for a while.
All right, so let's move on to the top 25 classes. We're only a few minutes away from Chris Henry Jr. Apparently announcing his decision very soon. Let's go over to the top 25 classes right now and kind of show what schools did the best in the 2026 recruiting class. At number 1, the recruiting national champion in 2026 is USC. USC bringing in 35 players overall with 1 5-star in Mark Bowman and 21 4-stars for the Trojans right now. At number 2, we got Notre Dame. Number 3, Oregon. Number 4, Georgia. Number 5, Alabama. At number 6, we've got Ohio State. Number 7, Tennessee. Number 8, Texas A&M. Number 9, Miami. Number 10, Texas. Number 11, LSU. 12, Michigan. 13, Florida. 14, Florida State. 15, South Carolina. 16, Washington. 17, Oklahoma. 18, North Carolina. 19, Clemson. 20, we actually got West Virginia moving up a little bit to number 20. I believe they just got a commitment very, very recently. Number 21 now is Illinois. 22, Texas Tech. 23, SMU. 24, Iowa. And how about this, Dalton? 25, Virginia Tech, a school that was outside the top 100, I believe, before they hired James Franklin, and he was a madman on the recruiting trail right after he got hired by Virginia Tech, and now Virginia Tech finishing with a top 25 recruiting class in the country.
How about it? I mean, you talk about turning it around. You got to get talent in there, and James Franklin even taking some of those recruits from your Penn State Nittany Lions. That's a big story right now, but I think some of those other teams are really intriguing. How about SMU and the momentum Rhett Lashley has coming off of signing that extension? Texas Tech, I mean, you talk about obviously spending the money we talked about it in the portal this last year, but 2 5-star guys in the edge defender, LaDainian Guyton, and the offensive tackle, Felix Ojo. They're building that thing in the trenches, but they've got an outstanding recruiting class. How about Rich? That was the most surprising one to me. How about Rich Rodriguez at West Virginia, first full recruiting class, getting the number 20 class here? Going into year 2, man. Maybe they're building something down there in the Big 12. The Big 12 is getting to be a lot of fun, but no, I mean, you got a lot of great stories there. And you know, for as many people as were on Lincoln Riley about, not making the playoffs and not maybe being up to the standards of winning, this is the reason that he still has his job, really, is that he's got the number 1 recruiting class in the nation. You mentioned 21 4-star prospects, tied with Texas A&M for the most in the country, along with Mark Bowman, the 5-star tight end there. So, look, he's still getting elite talent in there. They run an elite offense. It's a flashy program where kids want to go and play, and I think USC is continuing to build towards being one of the contenders at the top of the Big Ten.
And it does, a part that goes into it and why USC is number 1 is, yes, they have the 3rd most commits in the country behind West Virginia and North Carolina, which of course goes into it as well. But someone actually, I believe Carter Fink did a good job on Twitter of pointing this out. Clay Fink, on Twitter pointed this out. He said, you know what, even if you take out all 13 3-stars that USC got and they go down to a 22 commit class, it's still the number 1 class in the country because of how well they did on the trail, getting, again, a 5-star Mark Bowman, the tight end, and then 21 4-stars after that too. And how about Oregon, Dalton, right now? Oregon currently the number 3 class in the country. They could move up if Chris Henry Jr. does indeed sign with Oregon. Oregon right now has the most 5-star commits right now with 5 stars, and it could be 6 if Chris Henry Jr. does indeed flip to Oregon, like a lot of people think he might.
Yeah, and, you know, as far as USC goes, per the consensus rankings here, you know, you have Bowman as their 1 5-star guy, but you've got, I believe it's 5 other guys here in the top 50, yes, right outside of that 5-star range there. So, you know, if they didn't limit it to 32, who knows where the scoring system might have it there. But, I mean, when you're bringing in that depth of talent, too, that's really the big thing here when you talk about these classes and evaluating them on the whole. Obviously, getting 5-star guys is great, but it's about building depth. It's about, you know, out of those 35 guys, can at least 20 of them become big-time contributors for your team, right, on offense, defense, special teams, everywhere. So building that depth and what USC and Lincoln Riley are trying to do there to catch up to the top teams in the Big Ten right now, to Oregon and the way they're recruiting, to Ohio State and what they have going every year, even now to Indiana and what they're building. I know Kurt Signetti loves the transfer portal, but he's been recruiting very well as well lately. So really trying to catch up as far as the talent level goes, and they're getting closer.
Absolutely, yeah. If you just look at some other schools right now, shout out to Donnie. You wanted to shout out Iowa. Iowa finishing with a top 25 recruiting class as well at number 24 right there. Washington finishing number 16. Very good job by them. You got Florida. A really good job pointing out by Andrew Harbaugh in the chat, Dalton, saying, great job by Summerall for signing a top 15 recruiting class, even though he's still coaching Tulane right now, too.
Yeah, I mean, that is a big theme. When you look at, you know, we talked about Virginia Tech earlier, you talk about Florida with John Summerall. Now some of these teams with new coaches trying to figure out that transition and how many of those guys from that, you know, that were already committed, how many of those guys can they get to commit to stay and sign and continue to build that thing in the same program. But as we know, there's a lot of guys, and this is the case with Chris Henry Jr., where they're signing up for the coaching staff, whether it be the head coach, a coordinator, the position coach, right? And that's the whole reason we're here with Chris Henry. So really good job by those guys. Definitely Summerall and James Franklin of easing that transition into year 1 and at least keeping the talent base. And now you just have to build your culture there as you go.
Yeah, awesome job by James Franklin so far at Virginia Tech, getting a lot of former Penn State commits right now. And yeah, Virginia Tech's, again, signing a top 25 recruiting class in the country is really, really impressive stuff by them. Notre Dame also brought in an incredible class too, with 4 5-star commits going there. Notre Dame currently with the number 2 class in recruiting as well. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting teams here, Dalton. And how about my Syracuse Orange, number 29 overall? Fran Brown signing a top 30 class, I believe the best one Syracuse has had in a very, very long time. Yeah, Calvin Russell, a almost top 50 recruit overall, a wide receiver, committed and signed with Syracuse. There's a lot of talk that he might flip to Miami, but he is going to Syracuse. So, yeah, how about the Orange? Finishing top 30 too.
No, absolutely. Actually, if there's anything, look, the the best thing I would say so far, obviously he had the really good year in his first year with Kyle McCord at quarterback and some NFL talent, but the best thing Syracuse and Fran Brown have done so far is recruit and bring in talent. I think he's done a really good job of that. This year was obviously tough, and Steve Angeli's injury changed some things, but I think when you look at the talent base he's bringing in, we haven't seen this in Syracuse in a long time, so you might actually have some hope here long term. Stay patient here, Max. It was a tough year dealing with injuries. You lost a lot of talent last year. You had a really hard schedule this year, but I think stay patient here. As long as he keeps bringing in this type of talent, you haven't seen this type of athletic talent at Syracuse in a while, and I think you showed the 1 year that he did have it, granted with some seniors and things like that, and they won 10 games.
Yeah.
So I think, I'm not saying it's going to be maybe instant gratification here, but stay in there. Stay in the pocket, see where it goes with this recruiting class.
They brought in a 4-star receiver in Calvin Russell and another wide receiver in Tusi, the rapper, the 25-year-old rapper.
I have no idea who that is.
He's apparently a rapper who's going to Syracuse, committed to play football. Very famous rapper, actually, too. It's like 5 million followers on Instagram. But, yeah, he's going to Syracuse to play football, so we'll see how that goes, too. Chris Henry Jr., speaking of wide receivers, the number 1 receiver in the country. He's currently on the Pat McAfee show right now, about to announce his commitment. We're going to react live to that when he does announce it, Dalton. Actually, let's dive into Chris Henry Jr., I think, a little bit more right now, because I'm sure you did watch him. Again, the number 7 overall player, the number 1 receiver in high school football, currently committed to Ohio State. But with the news of Brian Hartline leaving Ohio State for USF, he's not as sure of his Ohio State commitment right now. There's schools like LSU making a big offer at him. Texas made a big offer at him. USC as well. But Oregon, it seems like right now, is the school to watch for Chris Henry Jr. And Oregon, if they get Chris Henry Jr., they would have the number 1 receiver from last year's class in DeCorian Moore and the number 1 receiver in this year's class in Chris Henry Jr.
It seems, Max, that we do have official word on his decision.
Do we?
Yes.
I'm seeing him on the Pat McAfee show. He hasn't announced anything yet. Is there an announcement?
Their Rivals is reporting that he will sign and stay with the Ohio State Buckeyes, despite the departure of offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach Brian Hartline, that he will stick with Ohio State.
Okay.
How about it, man?
Sticking with Ohio State.
Number 1 receiver in the country. And I get the idea that he had to think about it, right? With Hartline as the OC, as the wide receivers coach, as the guy that was likely recruiting him the hardest, right? And we know Ohio State's history with wide receivers. I mean, look at all the guys they've had go through there just in recent years, right? Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Emeka Ibuka. I mean, we do this so many times with Ohio State's wide receivers. Remind me if I'm missing anybody there, but it's just so many guys and so many first-round picks. And I think you just look at right now, that's been the best pipeline of wide receivers over the last, 6 to 8 years. So Henry going there, and the style for him, man, he's 6'5".
Yep.
Classic X-receiver. I think there's even maybe some, would you say some T. Higgins in there? A little bit of that. I mean, you're talking about a guy who can just overwhelm you with his size, I should say, and the after-the-catch ability is underrated with him. He's just, when you get him and Smith out there on the same field next year, the contested catches are just going to be some level ridiculous.
It's very funny that you mentioned T. Higgins, because he actually, because his dad used to play for the Bengals, obviously the late, great Chris Henry. T. Higgins is actually like a close friend of Chris Henry Jr. now. So they've actually become like very close friends, and T. Higgins kind of mentors him too. I know Pac-Man Jones kind of helped raise Chris Henry Jr. And yes, it's pretty interesting you say that, Dalton, as a comp for him, because he actually is like very close friends with T. Higgins right now.
I think it's very similar style of player, really. I do. Just 6'5", and at times just the size is overwhelming. And obviously high school cornerbacks are one thing, and then Big Ten cornerbacks are another, but you just don't teach the size and the speed at that size that he has. The hands are outstanding. I mean, really, really good. Would I put him quite in the class of fluidity as I would Jeremiah Smith? Not quite, but I think at that size, man, it's really, really good. And of course, going to right now wide receiver he's going to be just fine there, especially with the quarterback they have throwing it to him, at least for next year. He's going to love catching balls from Julian Sands.
6'5", 205 pounds. He has like 34-inch arms, I believe, too, which is just insane. I mean, yeah, he's continuing to grow, too. I mean, yeah, he's your classic X receiver, and him going to Ohio State next year. And Carnell Tate will be gone, of course, but you still have Jeremiah Smith there, still have Brandon Ennis there, you still have Julian Sayin there as well. We'll see what they do at offensive coordinator. But, big job, great job by Ryan Day of signing Chris Henry Jr., even with Brian Hartline leaving to go to the USF for the USF job. Yeah, Chris Henry Jr. Dalton's a very, very talented player, big body receiver. His contested catch ability is unbelievable. I remember there's one catch he had, I believe in week 1 of the high school season this year, where it was over his shoulder. He couldn't even see the ball, and he still somehow caught the ball too. Like, this guy's instincts are out of this world, and you could see why he has been the number 1 receiver in this class for almost the entirety of like his 4 years in high school football so far too.
There's not many built like him, right? I mean, you just when you get to the top of these 5-star recruits, you get to guys who just, you go, oh, those guys, they're just not normal. They're not built normal. And you always take a chance, especially at the college level, on those athletic freaks that just don't have that I should say they do have the tools that nobody else has here. The one bit of suspense here too, who's going to be Ohio State's offensive coordinator? That's the real question. And here, first question, because I believe it was our producer Tyler who brought this up early in the week. Could it be Chip Kelly?
Bring it back.
Didn't even make it through the full season with the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, he was the highest paid coordinator in the NFL this year. Don't blame him at all for leaving for that type of money and coaching under Pete Carroll, but didn't work out. He's no longer with the Raiders. Could we get him just coming right back and going, you know what? All right, Chip, you're back in. You know the system. You know a lot of the players. He knows Julian Sayin. That might be the most important thing out of all of it. So I do wonder, is it Chip Kelly? Is there somebody else? What's the list of candidates right now for Ohio State's offensive coordinator position? Because that could play a big part in this.
Yeah, Ryan Day did work under Chip Kelly. And, of course, Chip Kelly worked under Ryan Day last year, and it worked out great at Ohio State. Did not work out very well with the Raiders this year. Don't think Chip Kelly will get another shot at being an NFL offensive coordinator. So I could see him going back to Ohio State, honestly, and I make a lot of sense for both parties. Yeah, Walt actually making a great point in the chat. Also, Bo Jackson going back to Ohio State next year too. That offense is loaded next year.
Yeah, on top of who knows what sort of transfers we've seen them. You know, maybe they don't have the biggest transfer classes each year, but last year they brought in some impact ones, right? You still think about, you know, Max Clare. You think about Caleb Downs a couple of years ago. I mean, this team is going to find what they need to make a run at another national championship. We'll see if they win one this year, but they've got plenty of talent to work with going into next year as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Chris Henry Jr., the number 1 receiver in the class, and the last 5-star that has not signed, besides the number 1 player, Lamar Brown, but we do think he will end up at LSU. Chris Henry Jr. is staying with Ohio State. He is signing with the Ohio State Buckeyes, despite the push from Oregon, Texas, and LSU and USC. Chris Henry Jr. is going to Ohio State, the number 1 receiver in the country. It kind of wraps up our 2026 National Signing Day coverage, going over all of the 5-star recruits, going over the top 25 recruiting classes, and of course covering Chris Henry Jr. has made his final decision of where he will go to college. You see on the bottom screen right there, a reminder, 30% off PFF Plus right now with a promo code HOLIDAY30 to get PFF Plus 30% off this holiday season. For Dalton Wasserman, I'm Max Chadwick. Again, we'll see you guys on Sunday at 10 a.m., not 9 a.m., 10 a.m. Eastern Time to go over all 9 conference championship games. The reason why we're going live at 10 a.m. and not 9 a.m. is not just for the extra hour of sleep. It is also because we want to be live with you guys when the final college football playoff bracket is revealed live, I believe, around noon Eastern Time on Sunday. So we're going to go over all 9 games, give our updated bracket, give our Heisman pick at the end of the year too, and of course, react live with you guys for what should be a very contentious college football playoff bracket that we get in this season. For Dalton Wasserman, for our producers back there, and Tyler and Quinn, I'm Max Chadwick. Again, see you guys Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time here to break down all 9 conference title games.